let's get into NXT. They had New Year's Evil on Tuesday evening, and boy, the talent turnover is they're ramping it up significantly. So among the highlights on the show, Oba Femi retained the NXT title from defeating Leon Slater, and then in the closing moments, we saw the title left in the ring as Oba Femi just vanished, and there left standing in the background is Tony D'Angelo from the crowd. Presume that he got in to the PC, took in the show, and then announcing that the NXT title is vacant. So this has brought about several questions. One of being, when was it decided Oba Femi was going to the main roster? Because he just won this title back last month at Deadline, then had the Cody match, and you have to be wondering, like, was this maybe something thought of after Deadline, or was it just, hey, we're putting the belt on him and he's just gonna leave without dropping the title? Not to say this is like, I don't think we have to treat the NXT titles as the most valued of belts that must retain such a lineage in it. I mean, the focus is, hey, do we need to beat Oba Femi? We don't have to, so we're doing this. But obviously, main roster bound, and the question was, would he drop the belt going out? The answer is no.
Yeah, I would suggest, like, from looking at this picture, that whatever took place, like, in the preceding that Saturday night's main event, before they announced the card with all these guys on it, must have looked like very different than what we've ended up having. Because, I mean, if they were always going to, put Oba Femi into that match with Cody for just advertising the championship, and then later putting him onto the main roster afterwards, like, it would make no sense to have Ricky Saints beat him, right? If you did have Ricky Saints beat him, it would have been for perhaps like this moment where, like, he loses the championship, goes right up to the main roster. This back and forth, I mean, really just does show to me like a clear indication that the plans changed. And it's, I think, maybe some of the most blatant, en masse types of plans changing that you've seen in the WWE NXT relationship since the days of Vince.
This feels the most, like those periods when NXT would just be treated like it was a common thread. Like we saw it, yes, in the black and gold era where this talent, Vince would just all of a sudden that there was, I remember that one weekend, because I reported on this at the time. It's like all of a sudden it was like, hey, for Monday, we want Gargano, Ciampa, Aleister Black, and Ricochet at TV. And that was that period. They were like going back and forth. And it was only because Ciampa ended up getting hurt, and him and Gargano somehow ended up back in NXT, and it was a whole thing. But going back even further to OVW, when talent would be in the midst of storylines, and boom, we're just plucking them up to the main roster. Just a couple of weeks ago, when the Thea Hale unexpected title win occurred, one of the reports that came out was like, this is like throwing a huge curveball because Blake Monroe was planned for all this stuff. Fast forward to Tuesday, where she's set for the rematch with Hale, and they wrote off Blake Monroe after attacking Thea Hale. She was kicked out of the building, and while not directly stated that she is going to the main roster, I don't know how you could have any other conclusion than that, because Izzy Dame slips in, wins the title. It seems like Izzy Dame is taking over whatever Monroe was going to be doing. I'm sure when they booked this rematch, they were thinking Monroe's just going to get this belt back. So it would seem she is gone. Jordan Grace is confirmed to be up there. I guess Hendry is kind of doing both right now, but I imagine that's not going to be long term. He will be on the main roster as well. So, and then you had Javon Evans and Trick Williams. So, I mean, it's a lot of talent turnover, but at the end of the day, like it's a lot all at once for sure. And I would have my questions on it. Are all of these talents going to be fostered well on the main roster? But this is what NXT is for. Like, we should not be having people here as lifers. Like someone like a JC Jane, like she's been there now like 4 years plus at this point. Like, there should not be people on this NXT roster for 4 years. It's a certain, okay, is this person main roster ready or are they not? And But yeah, it is going to, like, we're going to get a big turnover for NXT, which may be intriguing, but it's going to be like, they pretty much did the segment with all the Evolve talent, that there's going to be a lot of like Evolve faces being integrated into NXT now.
It is part of the function of NXT. I mean, none of this is really shocking, and none of it should be, in my opinion, even that much complained about. Obviously, yes, if you're a dedicated viewer of NXT, you hope for like a soft landing, before somebody rips one of your beloved characters right out from the show and onto another one. But in the end, the function of the show is it's a bullpen for the main roster, and
this is not a third brand. This is developmental. Like, this is very clear, like what this is.
Yeah. And that's always going to take precedent, unfortunately. But that said, I also think it's one of the features of NXT, the fact that there's always going to be fresh faces, constant evolution in like characters, and I would say, to me, like, the stakes are always really high for anybody participating in an upper role, because it really is sink or swim. You either continue to make it and you might be on the main roster, or you can get cut, which we have seen throughout the course of the year as well. So I'm actually quite excited to see like who steps up from Evolve. We're already seeing it with Kendall Gray, who's doing tremendously. You're kind of already seeing like this next crop, this new class, if you want to call it that, of NXT main eventers start to rise up. And I think that's one of the biggest appeals of NXT to me.
It's like, obviously this can't exist at the higher level because, this funnel that you have, like, all these spots open up at NXT, and in theory you take people from Evolve or new signings and those fill in because you have to replace all these people. But all these names going to the main roster, like, it's not like new spots are opening up. It's like, it's just more people on the main roster. And their answer is, well, SmackDown's an hour longer. We're just expanding our programming. But it's like, it does make you wonder about like just all these people, and there's only so many spots. We're not getting rid of people on the main roster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, this has been an issue, for a long, long time now, right? And you're not seeing as many cuts on the main roster, but I have you will. And, this industry and this company constantly needs fresh faces.
You brought up Kendall Gray. I thought her match with JC Jane was, I thought this was the best match on the show. I enjoyed this even above Oba Femi and Leon Slater, who had a really great main event. But yes, Kendall Gray is getting so much praise, and she should be. Like, I do not mean to pick on Maxine, but it was really hard for me not to compare the two, just watching them back-to-back nights. And like, a Kendall Gray in that role just feels just so much smoother at just everything. And I think JC Jane honestly does not get enough credit as someone that has, been able to, I think she's improved greatly. I don't know if she's going to be like a giant success, but I think she's definitely earned herself like at least a shot on the main roster. And as I mentioned, like, being here in NXT for so long, I think she is due for at least like that chance, because I think she's improved quite a lot over this last year, and this was a really entertaining match that the two had on Tuesday.
I 100%. I mean, she could be a part of, like, if not this part, this set of call-ups, maybe post WrestleMania. There might be future opportunities for more talents to go up there. I certainly think like she represents somebody who is not just deserving, but I think would actually thrive rather well on the main roster. She has a great look, and I think together with Val and Henley, they make a great at least tag team if they wanted to, promote that division finally on the SmackDown side of things. I think she cuts a decent promo. So, and she's certainly ready, and she's proven, I think, enough of that.
What if she was an agent for Julia? What do you think her honestly, card distribution game looks like?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sucks in some ways because like, somebody could get called up and then you may not end up seeing them on the main roster like for months until there's something, right? So you never really know. Sometimes like staying in NXT is really a blessing because it guarantees you some screen time.
So next week on the show, they've announced Stax against Shiloh Hill for the international title. Joe Hendry against Dion Lennox. Lola Vice, Kalani
These
Jordan.
are going to be really thin-looking cards, especially on the men's side of things.
Yeah, this is the turnover. Lola Vice against Kalani Jordan that they've been building up for some time, and Jasper Troy defending the speed title against Tavion Heights. Tavion should win this title in 8 seconds, just like he won the tournament.
Yeah, this is going to be the rough part. Yeah, if you're in for the ride with watching NXT and watching the growth of these new talents, you're going to be watching a lot of growth over the next few months. Yeah,
I know another person that you and I have been very high on as well. It's like that should probably be main roster ready is Ethan Page. Watching Tuesday, I'm like, in some ways, this guy's the glue of the show. He was the glue of that segment where it was just everyone coming out. And I feel like this guy for NXT, I feel this guy could be very valuable in this transition period. And Ethan Page feels like the guy that just, when we're in a crunch, we go to Ethan Page. Like, this guy has been like the Moneyball hire for WWE, that, his deal came due with AEW. They were interested in him. They brought him in and, immediately put the title on him. So they were very high on him. But I don't know how much the audience was necessarily looking at him as being, he has outperformed, I think, greatly. He had a great year, and I feel he's going to be I think he'll be in a very good position this year. But he is another one that is totally main roster ready. It's just
he was main roster ready from day one. He was main roster ready before he got into AEW. Really, he's going to stick around NXT, I would imagine, for at least a while longer, because like you mentioned, John, he's the veteran that's there to lead all of these new guys, right? So and not just that, he's somebody you can kind of rely upon to lead a segment on a show with a lot of young guys that you may not be able to rely on as much. So I think he becomes that much more important to NXT, and that also might delay his main roster call up a little bit longer. But at this point, I feel like he's pretty undeniable as somebody who should be on the main roster.
What if Raw moves to 4 hours on Netflix?
Well, then they're going to have to call up the entire NXT roster. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We're calling up the entire show. It's now Evolve.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Instead of Ava, it's Gabe Sapolsky.
That would be, I don't know if that would be.
Did the voiceovers for all the PLEs. Yeah. Put up his phone number to
Night 3, NXT, Las Vegas.
Stand and Deliver, available now on DVD. Throughout the month of January, you have the chance to lock in your subscription at the Post Wrestling Cafe for all of 2026 before the price increase takes effect February the 1st. Simply sign up before February 1st and you will lock in that price all year long. If that's not enough, this month we have the annual Best and Worst of show as we get together with the Poison Rana crew to look back at 2025. We're also doing live watch-alongs of the Royal Rumbles from 1990 and 1995 with Brandon from New Jersey, a retrospective on the Tanahashi-Okada rivalry, plus reaction to Wrestle Kingdom 20, a review of TNA's debut on AMC, and much more, including TNA Genesis, UFC 324. It's all found at postwrestlingcafe.com.